everyone, thanks everyone for tuning into Sims Workshop. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. So today we're going to be reviewing Tidespeaker by Sadie Turner. This was a book gifted to me by the publisher. And I'm a little conflicted by it, to be perfectly honest. I think, ironically enough, I think one of my biggest issues was that there wasn't really any romance. Like, there's a hint of it, but it's like never fully developed. And I think that was very annoying to me because the book does market her attraction to Lear, you know? Colinth, it does mention her attraction to him. So you think something's going to happen to them. And I kept waiting for something to happen to them. But nothing ever really came to fruition. And it makes sense. It does make sense for the way the plot develops. So Colinth is a floodmouth. Basically, she goes to this academy and she is trained and she can talk to the ocean. She can talk to waves. She can talk to the sea. She can commune with it in a way to make it do what she wants, you know, so she can kind of talk to water, you know. She's a water bender. And she works with, you know, she gets this really good deal, right? To work for a noble family, be their servant, right? So there is a issue of classism going on. Everyone who has these magical abilities is thought of as a lesser than, because history-wise, the people in the past who did have these powers abused it to the point where people revolted and moved them into a station of servitude, right? They found this magic stone that, and I didn't write it down in my notes, unfortunately. It's like a rock. It's a stone that limits or controls their abilities, or, you know, it makes them lose control of their abilities, right? Lose access to it, basically, right? So they were moved into a position of servitude, and they have been in a position of servitude for, you know, decades, centuries, right? So she takes, you know, a position that belonged to her former best friend who is apparently dead. She died at this position, right? And while she's there, she is recruited by rebels. They're like, well, we want equality, right? So there is this classism plotline going on. And she's attracted to the nobleman who's a gustmouth, apparently, secretly. He can talk to air. He's an airbender, basically. And you think that there is something that's going to happen. There is a lot of tension between the two characters, but nothing ever happens. And while it makes sense, it does make sense for her to choose herself at the end of the novel versus him, because he's still delusional, you know, he's very much thinking like, no, I'm gonna, you know, stay here, like, you can still work for me, we can still kind of like be together, after she like betrays his family and costs his father's a dick, costs his father his life and all sorts of things. And she's like, no, like, I'm not an object. So I'm glad she does choose herself. I'm glad. I just wish, I think the story would have been better if we just didn't have that romantic subplot at all, because it's like simmering right there, and it is mentioned in like the back cover of the blurb of the story, right? I actually did read the back cover blurb this time in the email that was sent to me, and I'm like, ooh, okay, forbidden romance, kind of like, I can do this. So I wish the story just didn't have that romance aspect at all, to be perfectly honest, because it was just simmering and it never was fully developed, and it never really came to any. They have one kiss, you know, unless the author was really going to make the effort to kind of change him and also have him choose her and have him choose the rebellion versus him just choosing his class and his station and thinking like, no, we can change it this way, versus going with her to kind of change it in another way that also fights for equality, right? I think I would have appreciated it better. So either no romance or a little bit more development on Lear's part, because I just didn't think it was fully developed, and I really didn't think it was worth it at all. It really would have been interesting if he found out she was part of the Cage, that's the rebel organization, and decided, no, yes, my father is dead. Because he does acknowledge that his father is kind of awful. And he is friends with the other servants, you know? He does hold them in respect. But it's that whole classism, like he can't get over the classism aspect. So I wish his character arc had been a little bit more developed to at least make it a little bit more worthwhile. Or just cut that whole romantic tension aspect of the story completely. You know, it just didn't need to be there. Especially since it didn't really evolve to anything. And even by the end, she's just like, he didn't follow. They just waved goodbye to us as we left. I'm like, well, that's disappointing. It was disappointing in that aspect. I just think if you're going to mention romance in like your back cover and your blurb and your marketing plan, then really like delve into it and develop it. You know, just develop that romance. Otherwise, don't even mention it. It just didn't need to be in the book, honestly. That's slimmering, slow burning list. Because I kept thinking something was going to happen between them because of all the tension, and nothing ever happened except for the one kiss. And it's just like, oh, I'm and her constant, like, I'm attracted to him, but I'm repulsed by him because of his station and how he, you know, just what his class thinks of my class. But I like him. But I don't like him. But I like him, but I don't like him. And that's what was going on in Colin's head, right? So I wish there had been more development on that aspect of the story, because I thought the political intrigue was really cool. I thought the whole Avatar of the Last Airbender kind of elemental magic aspect was kind of cool as well. I just was disappointed by, ironically enough, the lack of romance in a book that kind of really does highlight it in the Black Clover blurb. Like, it mentioned it, so, you know, the storyline has it simmering there in the entire story. So, you know, I am glad she chooses herself. I just think she could have chosen herself without the romance aspect being kind of dangled there like a carrot. So, interesting novel. Solid 3 stars, honestly. It's interesting enough to read. It didn't blow my mind. But solid 3 stars. It was well written. I will say that. It just didn't need that simmering romance aspect of the story at all. Could have just been cut, and I think it would have been a much stronger and better story, honestly. So yeah, solid 3 stars. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with all your book loving friends. I hope you'll have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, happy reading.